Welcome back, folks, to another Archetype review. I'm Frizz, and today I'd like to talk about the Sleepwalker archetype that was recently released in the Dark Archive. It's been a while since I've made one of these archetype reviews, but the Sleepwalker really did grab my attention. As someone who always feels tired normally and finds dreams really interesting, since I never remember mine, the Sleepwalker is really fascinating. It deals with fighting while being half asleep, putting people to sleep, infiltrating their dreams, and blending reality with dream. So let's just get into it. The Sleepwalker dedication becomes available at level 4, and it just requires that you're an expert in occultism. Once you are a Sleepwalker, you can spend an action to enter a Daydream Trance for 1 minute, or until you get knocked out. And once you leave the stance, you can't enter it for another minute. While you're in this trance, you're half asleep and you're only sort of aware of reality, which is fun stuff. Mechanically, this means that you take a -1 penalty on perception checks and initiative rolls. The initiative penalty doesn't matter all that much if you activate this once combat begins, and you generally don't make a huge amount of perception checks in combat under normal circumstances. The benefits of the trance more than makes up for these small penalties. You get a +1 status bonus to all will saves, and this increases to a +2 versus mental effects. And once you're eventually legendary in occultism, the bonus against mental effects increases to a total +3. If you've watched my recent video on saving throws, you know that I think that will saves are easily the most important saving throw in the entire game, and mental effects are always the scariest will saves. Getting a bonus on all will saves and a larger bonus against mental effects is absolutely worth those small penalties. Things really start to pick up speed at level 6 with the Infiltrate Dream feat. With this feat, you can enter someone's dream over the course of 10 minutes while they're sleeping. This doesn't stop them from waking up naturally, so you might want to actually have a decent stealth skill and have someone on lookout duty, but they don't even get a will save to stop you from entering. Once you do infiltrate someone's dream, they're immune to this ability for a week, and you get to watch their dreams as an impartial observer. You then get to make interpretations about what you see in their head, which is an occultism check versus their will DC, while you're looking for one specific topic. If you get a success, you manage to get some kind of hint or clue about the topic that you were searching for. It isn't necessarily incorrect, but it might be useless without other context from other sources. If you critically succeed against their will DC, you get a direct piece of information that is relevant to the topic that you were looking for, unless the person that you're infiltrating would want to keep that subject matter hidden. In that case, you just get some information that is related to the topic, not necessarily a direct piece of information. Finally, as with so many abilities about getting information, if you critically fail, you misinterpret the dream, getting a false piece of information. Also, if the target doesn't know anything about the topic that you're looking for, you learn nothing unless you roll a critical failure. This is an amazing way of learning information, so long as you have access to where someone sleeps, and the best part is that, unlike most abilities that just drag information out of people's minds, there's zero chance of them discovering you so long as you're very quiet. Also, I'm just going to point out that this ability doesn't have the secret trait, but the occultism roll should absolutely be a secret roll, so you don't know how well you did, so you don't know, like, oh, I rolled a 1, I'm just not going to trust any of the information that I get. The other level 6 feat is about as weird, but it's also amazingly strong, especially in combat. Vision of Foresight allows you to spend an action while in a Daydream Trance to peer into your own dreams to try and figure out what to do next. One time before the end of your next turn, and this isn't a reaction, you can roll a saving throw or a skill check twice and take the better result. This is absolutely nutty. Abilities that let you roll twice and take the better are normally really restricted and definitely are not level 6 feats. What is even crazier about this is that you can do this every single turn in Daydream Stance, and the only limitation on that is how often you can enter the trance, that you just have to wait a minute after it's over. This is so good for both out of combat skill checks and in combat survival. If you know you're going to be setting off a trap, go into your trance. If you're in combat, go into your trance. Seriously, this is insanely powerful for a level 6 single action ability. Moving on to level 8, Dream Magic is a little bit unusual. It gives you access to one of two spells that you can cast as a 4th level cult spell once per day. You can also take this feat again to get the other spell that you didn't pick. You can pick from Sleep or Dream Message. Dream Message is nice and simple. You can send a minute-long message to up to 10 people that you know by name and have also met in person who are on the same planet as you. Generally speaking, that's going to be everyone on the material plane. You don't know that many people that get off planet. The instant that they fall asleep, they get the message that you sent to them, and you know that it was sent. That is an incredibly reliable way to send messages over huge distances, even if the targets can't actually respond, or they don't get that messages very fast. On the other hand, Sleep is a much more finicky spell. At 4th level, if the target fails their will save against Sleep, they fall asleep for a round, and they keep on sleeping if they aren't woken up naturally. So if you're only fighting one person and they fail, and everyone stays quiet, they're just out. If they critically fail, then they are asleep for like a full minute, and they don't automatically wake up at the end of the duration. That is what makes a level 4 sleep better than a level 1 sleep. Is a level 1 sleep, they automatically wake up once the duration ends. Level 4, they don't. The only problem with this spell is its incapacitation trait, which means that it's pretty unlikely to knock out someone above your level because they would have to critically fail. On the other hand, this combines amazingly with Infiltrate Dream. If you can't seek at someone's house to infiltrate their dream, you can always just knock them out with magic and then infiltrate their dream. The other level 8 feat is Waking Dream, which gives you access to the Waking Dream focus spell. Also, you get a focus point that you can refocus by taking a nap, which is hilarious. As for the focus spell itself, it's pretty good. It's not pretty good, it's very good. For 2 actions, you can fill someone's head dream-like visions, making threats appear literally everywhere. If they critically succeed on their will save, nothing happens. If they succeed though, everyone is concealed for a round, as they can't really see what's happening due to all of the weird dream shit going on around them. If they fail, then the target is confused, but unlike normal confusion, they might just swing randomly at the air instead of another creature or themselves, because in their mind, swinging at the air isn't swinging at the air. It's swinging at an actual threat that no one else can see because it doesn't exist. They also get a saving throw at the end of their turn to end the confusion effect early. And also, if they ever do end the confusion effect early, then everyone is still concealed for a round. You can sustain the spell for up to a minute. If they critically fail on their will save, it's similar to if they fail, except that they don't get a saving throw every turn, and if nobody attacks them and they don't take damage, they're going to be confused for an entire minute and just swing at random people. This is an absolutely amazing debuff spell, especially for a focus spell. While applying confusion isn't great while fighting a single target, since they have a 50% chance to leave the confusion every time they get damaged, this is an amazing way to take someone almost completely out of a fight while you mop up all of the other enemies. You just have to be careful about getting hit by the person who's confused. The level 12 Oneiric Influence feat is basically the subconscious suggestion spell on all kinds of steroids. You have to infiltrate someone's dreams using the feat of the same name, and while you're there, you can leave a suggestion in their mind. They have to make a will save versus your class DC or spell DC versus the subconscious suggestion spell. While this spell does have the incapacitation trait, which seems like it was going to greatly reduce the usefulness of this feat, it gets way better. Even if the target gets a critical success on their will save, they don't know that you tried to control them, basically making this ability risk-free, which is very different from the actual spell. Also, the suggestion lasts for a full week before it gets triggered, which is a lot better than the normal, less than 24 hours that the normal spell suffers from. Finally, whenever the target actually does whatever you suggest for them to do, they don't remember doing it because they're in a dream-like trance. If they get questioned about what they were doing, then they might realize that what they were doing wasn't natural. But if they don't get questioned or they don't get caught, then they don't even realize that something is wrong. This is an amazingly huge upgrade, And really, this is 100% the kind of ability that will get you put on a watch list if you had it in real life. But it's still a very fun ability, and you can really manipulate a lot of commoners with this. Now, after hearing that last ability, you might understandably be a little bit concerned about other people using this on you. In that case, the level 12 Ward Slumber feat is for you. Before you go to bed, you can perform a 10-minute ritual to protect up to 8 different people within 30 feet. All creatures affected get a +4 status bonus against the Nightmare spell, a Night Hag's Dream Haunting, or any other effects that influence dreams. Like the entire archetype, really. Also, anyone who is affected by the ritual heals double the normal amount of hit points from sleeping. This ability is predominantly useful in 2 different types of campaigns. First, this is great in campaigns where you're dealing with night hags, obviously, or a wizard who knows your name. Seriously, the Nightmare spell has a goddamn range of planetary, and it can ruin your sleep and debuff you for a whole day. The second type of campaign where this is useful is when you know that your GM likes to throw the crazy things that you have in your own build right back at you, because Ward Slumber just helps protect you against other sleepwalkers. Dream Logic is a level 14 feat, and it's also my favorite feat in the entire archetype. You know how whenever you're in a dream you don't realize it, despite how nothing that is going on makes any kind of sense? Now, whenever you're in your Daydream Trance, everyone around you doesn't notice anything weird that you do. You can walk into banks and take the money, you can start casting disintegration in the streets, and you can just do all kinds of crazy shit and no one will realize what's going on. Well, it isn't guaranteed, of course. Anyone who can perceive you, who isn't one of your allies or someone that you select, has to make a perception check against their class DC or spell DC. If they succeed, then they aren't affected and then they're going to realize that weird shit's going on, but if they fail, they don't notice whatever's going on. If you start doing something completely different than what originally triggered their perception check, then they get another check. So let's say that you started, stealing from a stall in a market, then everyone gets 1 perception check. But if you then start a fight in the market, then everyone will get a 2nd perception check. Also, if someone explicitly tries to draw attention to whatever is going on, so someone passes the perception check and then tries to bring someone else or scream in their face saying help, then they get another check. This one ability opens up the possibility for so many different shenanigans, you have no idea. Just to put this into perspective a bit, since this is a level 14 ability, the average commoner can't notice that anything is happening even if they roll a natural 20. You can do so much with this feat if you use it creatively. Shared Dream is the second to last feat in this archetype, and it gives access to the Dream Cancel spell once per day. It allows for you to contact up to 12 people that you know and have met in person and bring them into a dream to talk to each other. While it does knock out whoever cares to join, it's a great way to get lengthy discussions with people all across the planet. Just remember that time zones exist, but in some campaigns this is going to be very, very useful. In others, this is never going to see the light of day. The final feat for this archetype is absolutely wild. There is no longer a distinction for you between being awake and being asleep. Daydream Trance has an unlimited duration for you now, and you can enter it without any kind of action. Also, if you're unconscious due to being asleep, you don't take the -4 penalty to your perception, AC, and reflex saves, and you aren't flat-footed, because why would you be? You're awake, even though you're asleep. There's no difference. While you're still blinded being asleep because your eyes are obviously closed, you can still act while you're asleep. If you get into combat, you can act on your turn while you're asleep, though you are slowed 2 until you're fully awake. And I would argue that you wake up fully whenever you take damage. So you can make a strike while you are asleep. You can walk between towns while you are asleep. And also, you're level 18 when you get this ability. You can fight a level 10 party and probably take 0 damage while asleep. This is hilariously specific for an ability. but because it's so specific, it's actually very, very strong for its one use, and it's absolutely hilarious. When it comes down to it, the Sleepwalker is my favorite kind of archetype, hands down. It takes a super specific idea, that being sleep and dream magic, which is way too small to be a full class, and gives it a bunch of cool abilities as an archetype. While it is not an objectively powerful archetype, it truly defines the character that takes it, and can work with basically every class that you want it to work with. Paizo did a very good job with this one. Thanks for watching. It's been a long time since I've made an archetype review, so I'm looking forward to seeing how well it does, because previously they weren't doing great, but hey, I'm now talking about a new book, so we'll see. The Dark Archive is super, super cool, and the Sleepwalker just begged to be talked about. Also, it's nice to make a longer video again. It's been a while since I made one like this. What do you think about the Sleepwalker, and what characters do you have in mind that you think would work really well with the flavor of it? Regardless of that though, until I see you next, live a wonderful life.